good. You know, they were quite excited. They walked in the room, and the gentleman, the patient, of course, who got stung, sat there and turned around and went, right, I'm suing you two. Because although you are totally immobile, you cannot blink an eyeball, you cannot move a thing, you can hear everything. And he could hear them giving up on him, and so he actually did sue them. But in Australia, we have a thing called duty of care, and basically those people did not have a duty of care, therefore, and we also have a Good Samaritan rule as well. But basically, you can help anybody, and as long as you're doing what you think is the best thing, you can never get in trouble for it. And so it didn't actually got thrown out of court. But very interesting. This is currently being developed in San Francisco, I believe. They reckon that they'll release it this year into a new anesthetic. And it is much better with 0 side effects than any anesthetic we currently have out there. And they reckon they'll release that this year. I'll get back to you on the name of the drug. But very interesting. Probably up there on poison scales is this one as well. Does anyone know what this one's called? Box jellyfish, or Coronex fleckeri is its Latin name. Very, very nasty indeed. Only around from November to April every year in northern waters of Australia. The rest of the time they're in larvae stage, they don't hurt anybody. So it's only for a few months of the year and only close to the coast. Now, I was unlucky enough to get stung by one of these one time. And let me say, it is not the most pleasant experience I ever encountered. I've never screamed so many expletives in my life. It was incredibly painful, incredibly painful. The scars are similar to this. I got stung in a similar place on my inner thigh, which is definitely not the place you want to get stung. And I was about 12 at the time, and over time and looking after it, the scars have disappeared. But most people have disfiguring scars for the rest of their lives. So it's quite a nasty thing to run across. This is a microscopic view of the tentacle. And you have these things called pneumatocysts, which is the stinging cells, and they're firing out like that. So lots of little poisonous barbs injecting poison into you. Now, the interesting thing is that it will not release those barbs unless it touches something biological. So you only have to wear nylons and you'll never get stung. As long as that tentacle doesn't touch your skin, it will never sting you. That's why you can go in with very, very thin material and you'll be fine. And what eats jellyfish? Well, batfish and turtles would be the two big ones. Does anyone know what these ones are? Who said manatees? Difference between a manatee and a dugong? Very, very simple. The tail. A manatee has like a beaver tail, and a dugong has a dolphin tail. That's the easiest way to describe it. And of course, manatees live in the Atlantic and Pacific? Yes. No. Around America. Dugongs live mainly in the South Pacific region. They're sometimes called sea cows because they eat up to 40 kilograms of seagrass a day. And they have very, very good meat on them as well, highly prized by the native people of Australia. And also, they're also sometimes called the elusive mermaid, which was the title of a documentary that we spent 3 years doing on these guys. And the reason they're called the elusive mermaid is back in the old sailing days, they used to get mistaken for mermaids. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd have to drink a lot of rum to start thinking that's a mermaid. But that's where the name comes from. This one in particular is, his name was Mr. Dugong, funnily enough, and he's in Vanuatu, which is a small island nation, of course, just out to, well, the northeast of us at the moment. And we spent a good 3 weeks with him, actually, and he was one of the only, there was 2 tame dugongs in the world, not, of course, in an aquarium, but in the wild, and we hung around with him. This is a shot of him actually attacking me. I have a lot of healthy respect for these dugongs. They do weigh up to about 600, 700 kilograms, and they know how to use it, yeah. So the thing that I had with this guy, basically, he really, really liked females, he hated males. And I got away with it for like the first 4 days, I think because of the ponytail. And he he was quite nice to me, and I saw all these males get attacked and get chased out of the water, and it was very funny at the restaurant in the evening because there'd be honeymoon couples, and the wife would be like, oh, you got to come in for a swim tomorrow with the dugong, and the husband would go like, no, 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 and the wife would go, oh, don't be such a wuss, come on, and the dugong used to beat him up all the time, I guess because he wanted all the females to himself. So on the fifth day I was swimming with him, I guess he worked out who I was. And what he did is he grabbed a hold of me with his fins here, the pectoral fins. Grabbed a hold of me, so my arms were locked in against my body, took me down to 5 meters depth against the sand, and just held me against the bottom of the sand. Now, 700-kilogram animal, wasn't a lot I could do. I was kicking, I was screaming, I was punching, I was doing everything I possibly can, no effect whatsoever. And then after about a minute and a half, I started to see the black sort of come in the eyesight and stuff like that, and I went, ooh, death by dugong. Didn't really see that one coming. And funnily enough, it was just a game for him. As soon as I'd stopped fighting, he let me go. And thank God I was wearing a neoprene wetsuit, made me buoyant, and I floated back to the surface because there's no way I could get there on my own. And I stayed out of the water for a good 3-4 days, but I did get back in the water and didn't have any problems after that. But I do have a very, very healthy respect for the old dugong. And definitely find them amazing, amazing creatures to swim with. And are very elusive. If you're lucky enough to find one and swim with one, you are incredibly lucky.
Are they endangered like the manatees?
They are endangered off Australia for numerous reasons. First of all, they have been hunted by native Australians, obviously, since time immemorial. Unfortunately, these days they're hunting them with a 200 horsepower engine on the back. So they're catching a few more than they should. So they have reductions in there, but that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is actually propellers and boat traffic. So unfortunately, where they live sometime is where we live, and propellers and stuff have hit them, and nets and stuff have caught them up. So they are endangered in Australia, but not critically endangered yet, because we've protected large, large sections of seagrass, their native habitat, to make sure that they're still with us for many, many years to come. Lifespan of about 70 years, although their reproductive cycle is only once every 3 to 9 years. So a female generally will only have maybe 3 to 4 calves in its lifetime, and the mortality rate's pretty high as well. So that's why their numbers will take a long time to get back to normal once we protect all the areas. About 2 to 3 meters in length, and as I said, seagrass, 40 kilograms a day. But very, very interesting creatures. I hope you get a chance to see one time. Now, on to Flipper. On to Flipper. Now, we all know Flipper's a bit of a, he's an interesting animal. I worked for many years at SeaWorld with them. I found them incredibly cute and cuddly, and definitely a lot of fun to work with. But also, they're deviants. They're quite twisted animals. And you think they're really, really cute and cuddly and really innocent. They're not. They're not at all. Now, up until very recently, and I'll talk more about this in part 2, we thought they were the only other animal besides us that had sex for pleasure. We now know that is very much incorrect, but they're also one of the only animals that was also recorded, and this is back in the day because a lot of research has been done on them, that will gang rape. And so they'll have coercive sex, as we call it. And if it's always the males. If the young males can get a female from another pod, it will never be someone that's related to them or close to them. It will be from another pod. If they can get a female away from that pod, they will gang rape her. Now, before you start feeling too sorry for her,